you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Chris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. I am Dr. Chris Sargent, and I'd like to welcome you to the Spark Faith Show. And today we're going to talk about why you're not broken, right? And a foundation for lasting health. I have definitely run up against some of the challenges that we're going to talk about today and have had to really make a huge shift in my lifestyle and all those things over the last few weeks. So I'm going to share a little piece of my story a little bit later on, and we are going to dive right into naming the quiet fear. So what am I even talking about today? Well, I'm really talking about disarming shame and how to create some safety for yourself. And you're like, what are you even talking about? So hang with me. This is going to make sense in about 25 minutes, okay? So hang with me for a little bit. I'm going to ask you a few questions because I like to start with a little bit of self-reflection and be able to tap into whatever's going on with you at this point in time. So last week we talked a lot about 3 different ways that people get unmotivated and how to kind of restore that motivation. This week, I want to talk about change and why it can be so hard. And even when you care deeply, like, why does change feel so hard, even when you really do care about yourself, or you say you care about yourself, right? And then why do motivation and good intentions just seem to keep collapsing, right? We talked a little bit about this last week, and we're going to dive in a little bit more in a little bit different direction this week. So again, hang with me here. And then why does your body seem to put up all kinds of resistance when your mind really wants something different, right? You tell yourself you're going to do this thing, but your body just doesn't seem to cooperate, right? And so I just want to clarify that this struggle does not mean that something is wrong with you necessarily. It may. However, let's start with this assumption that maybe there's not really anything wrong with you. It can just mean that you're just pushing past what your body can sustain. All right. And this is a little piece of my story is over my last semester in seminary and some big positive things that have happened in my personal life. It has been a lot, like some icky stress with just hitting deadlines for school and work and all those pieces, but also some happy stress that's come along. And it's created some other lists that also need to be checked off, right? And I found myself kind of smashed against the wall a couple weeks ago and just exhausted. Well, this is not an easy place for me to be, and it may not be an easy place for you to be either. I have, as a 3 Enneagram, I am driven, I am motivated, I am positive, I am let's get this stuff done kind of person. And so I have trained myself in a lot of different ways to keep pushing forward, even through fatigue or a couple nights of poor sleep. However, a couple weeks ago, maybe ish, I hit a wall, right? Right after the new year and just after some things that had happened, positive and negative. I found myself just really like bone tired. So I want you to sit with yourself for just a minute and really assess. Like, are you tired? I know it seems like a crazy question, and for those of you who are drivers and producers and like get stuff done and move past and keep going and live in a distracted, kind of hurried pace in busyness and in just accomplishing the goals that you want to accomplish, maybe you need to take a minute and assess whether right now or in, later today or after you listen to this, are you really just kind of tired? Because it was really a hard place for me to be and a hard thing for me to admit, but I was really tired. And so I just kept thinking, what's broken here? Why am I not able to just keep going? Um, and so I just tried to keep going and then smash, right? I kind of hit a wall. So I felt like, okay, wait a minute. Is this a big failure? Is this my body just like shutting down? Like, what is going on? And so I want to take a few minutes here and just assess, like, where are you, right? And I also want to lay this out for you that this is not a new plan. This is not a challenge. This is not a pep talk, right? This episode is really going to explain why this effort and pushing may just keep failing. Okay. So I'm going to anchor that with like, if change feels hard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're failing. It could mean that something deeper really needs some different support, right? I needed some different blood sugar support for my workouts so that my body wasn't so tired afterwards. And this difficulty that you may have, or these difficulties that you're experiencing, doesn't necessarily mean weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's information that your body has been trying to give you. Are you listening? I wasn't listening for a while. I was not. I was ignoring it, letting it go, pushing forward until I realized, like, whoa, wait a minute. All the stuff that I've been talking about on my podcast is happening to me. So I really need to look at the lie that I had inherited. And there's some false framework that I had been living under, and you may be living under. Um, there's some cultural, there's some religious messaging that we've all absorbed, right? If we just try harder, if we could just be more disciplined, if I can just push through that resistance, then I can get out on the other side and I'm going to be okay, right? However, this has really become some internalized pressure for yourself, right? And this continual self-monitoring and self-criticism and chronic striving comes with a pretty big cost, right? And I definitely felt that cost couple weeks ago. And yes, I've shifted some things. So I'm feeling better. And it hasn't taken that long to retool what I'm doing, just some tweaks. But the cost is that pressure really can masquerade as some kind of maturity or lack of maturity in my own self. And so, I'm always talking about transformation and self growth. And I really needed to look at my messaging around slowing down, right? And slowing down when I knew and know it's the best thing that I can do for myself. And it may be the best thing you can do for yourself. And I know that all y'all who are out there working a job, raising kids, doing all the things like single moms, I get it. You're in perimenopause or menopause. Maybe you're a pastor who's the only person on staff doing kind of everything. There's still you have to create some margin somewhere. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about laying out some boundaries. We're going to talk about how to set yourself up for success instead of getting this whole endurance thing confused with health, right? And so I really don't think that God wants to form us and form people through fear. Like, if I don't keep going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Or some kind of pressure that you think is going to produce some sort of compliance, right? But it doesn't ever really create transformation. And I really love to look at transformation and transforming how we walk through our life. And that's pastoral care at its finest, is looking at your whole situation and saying, okay, what needs to give for a couple weeks? What can I let go of? What do I need to say no to so that I'm not walking into this discipline without any kind of safety, and that becomes like this weird self-coercion, right? So I'm making this, or you may be making this harsh judgment against yourself, right? That maybe the not enough unworthiness is rearing its ugly head again. And by saying that you're not enough if you don't just keep pushing. And I am so familiar with that. And so what's actually happening is you're pushing past safety valves that your neurology and your physiology have put into place so that you can thrive, right? And you're actually just living in this survival mode. And it doesn't work forever, and it won't work forever. And I definitely hit that wall of, I'm not thriving anymore. I'm barely surviving. And now it's time to do something different, right? So, all the shame that we put on ourselves, we need to shift that blame away from some sort of character flaw into physiology, right? Our nervous system's primary job is to find the threats, right? We have to find the threats, and we have to preserve survival. And as we ignore those nervous system regulation things, we we just become more in this survival freak out kind of space and fight or flight, cortisol, right? And so that threat is not just physical threat, it becomes criticism and self-judgment and fear of failure. And did for sure for a couple of days, just spiral down into a place that's not helpful at all. And under that spiraling and in that survival space, we've already talked about a lot of things that can happen biologically and physiologically, right? Elevated cortisol, blood sugars all over the place, a lot of blood sugar instability, which can lead to moods being all over the place, which leads to poor sleep, which leads to worse moods and worse cortisol and worse blood sugar, and creates inflammation. And ultimately, this is going to create fatigue, weight loss resistance, and even more frustration, right? Which is where we started just a few minutes ago. So I want to reframe this resistance that your body is not defiant, right? It's trying to protect you. So let's take a moment and slow down for just a second right here in the middle of a podcast, right in the middle of my show. Let's take a nice long inhale and sigh it out, because your body isn't resisting you. It's trying to protect you. So let's walk into a little bit of a theological reset and then some physiological reset, right? So no condemnation, which I've talked about in the past, means safety. So this self-condemning space that your mind and your habits get into is not helping you, right? We are trying to move into a space of grace. And it's time to reset your expectations. I had to reset my own expectations for a few weeks in order to protect myself and my body, my show, my personal life, my kids, my seminary space, and in order to so that you can protect your goals and your kids and your life and all your ministry or whatever else it is that you're working on. It's time to reset the expectations and your mindset. So no condemnation means safety. right? This is not a time for pushing harder. It's a time to reset your expectations and your mindset. So let's integrate some faith without being preachy, because that's not what I'm here for. But grace is not a couple of things. Grace is not permissiveness, right? Oh, well, I have grace, therefore I can just do whatever I want. It's also not weakness. Well, I'm going to give myself grace so I don't have to do anything. That's not exactly it either, right? And condemnation creates this hiding, this over effort, this way too much effort, this exhaustion. Safety comes in slowing down and really allowing yourself to catch your breath, right? Which we just did, which is going to allow a nervous system regulation. We've talked a lot about the vagus nerve and regulating our vagus tone, which will help to repair our cortisol. So we're going to regulate our nervous system, start repairing our physiology, and gain capacity so that we can move forward in a much more structured way. God's design is very integrated, right? Spiritual peace affects physical systems, and physical systems can affect spiritual peace. So let's move into a place where we can find some of that awareness around what we've been doing and the messages that we have going on in our head and the habits that we've built because you think they work for you, but they've kind of come to the end of working, right? And the body is going to respond to the story that it lives under, right? The body is going to respond to the story that it's living under. And if the story that you're living under is not enough and unworthy, and I need to keep doing more, and I just need to push through, and I'm going to push through, and white knuckle and willpower and all those things, then that's not going to really work, right? Your body responds to that with inflammation and negative physiology. So grace can become physiological, right? It's not just theological. So let's move into that. And, we could start another plan, but that just puts more rules and restrictions and requires some sort of output. It demands consistency before you actually restore your energy. So we need to restore our energy. And we've been labeling this resistance that we're coming up against as failure instead of overload, right? Resistance has been labeled failure instead of overload. And so when we crash, when I crash, when people crash, the system blames the person, right? Your habits are blaming yourself. And a plan could just be blaming you more. So I want to introduce my new Living Fresh, and Fresh is an acronym which we will discuss down the road a little bit. My new Living Fresh collective, which is going to be a community, is going to provide a space where you can partner with your body and restore before you require something new, right? You don't override biology with willpower. And I've said this so many times. You work with your biology with wisdom. And that's what we're going to do in the Living Fresh Collective. It's pretty exciting. I'm excited about this whole thing, and I can't wait to tell you more down the road. But I just want to let you know it's pretty exciting and it's coming. So let's reframe your story just a little bit. Let's reauthor our narratives, right? All these failed attempts of pushing through and finding this resistance were just warning symptoms, right? They're warning signals. And remember, whatever your body has gone through, it's going to remember it, right? Our body remembers every single stress. Even when our mind wants to move on, your body's still like, well, wait a minute. I still have these stressors that you're not handling. And so healing has to begin with relief first, right? We have to give the body something different. Like if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. So it begins with relief. It begins with permission, allowing yourself that permission to say no, to take less responsibility, to pull back just a little bit, to give yourself a margin of space, whether it's in your pastoring, whether it's in you being a mom, whether it's at work, we've got to find some margin. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for me. I know I've had to find margin in all the things that I've been doing. So I had to give myself permission, but that permission is going to allow for some safety. And so I'm going to introduce the F. F is for foundations, right? And that's safety and stability and no condemnation whatsoever, right? Our foundations are not optional, right? Foundations are how we live. If our house didn't have a foundation, if your apartment building didn't have a foundation, it is going to topple. So we have to find those foundations that are critical for our health and for moving forward in a new and healthy way, right? And I've had to do the same thing. I told you I'm in it right now. I've had to drop back on some of my workouts. I've had to really focus on sleep. I had to change my diet around so that I was changing up how I was eating so that I could get better sleep, so that my cortisol could lower, so that. I'm in it with you right here every day. And honestly, nothing is going to last without our foundations. So we're going to start our fresh living fresh collective with a foundation, right? So what if nothing is actually wrong with you? It's really just a starting point for living different and living fresh. And so we're going to start talking about living and orienting towards the living fresh collective. Um, you're not really broken, right? There may be some physiological things that feel broken. You may be suffering from burnout and fatigue that you haven't acknowledged. And that's where we started the episode with. You may not want to acknowledge it because of all the things that are happening inside yourself and the messages that you've been telling yourself. So you're not broken. Your body is not your enemy. And I've said this in other episodes too. It's not your enemy, right? It's telling you, it's giving you some information that you need to take in and love yourself for that. And in order to really heal, which takes some time, right? I gave myself a week and I slowed down for a week and I changed my diet for a week. And then I went right back to heavy duty. And guess what happened? I crashed too fast. So, right? Time. Allow yourself some time. However long you've been stressed out, you're going to need to give yourself a week or longer for every month that you've been stressed out. Maybe it's going to take a month for every month, right? So just give yourself some space and time. God walks at 3 miles per hour. I think I've said this before, right? Jesus could only walk at 3 miles per hour. So that's how fast we have to allow our healing to take. We can't hurry that up. It's just not in our physiology. We're not created that way. And I had to come to that realization too, just like you did. I know it's hard. So healing is really going to start with safety. And so what's coming for that? How do we create that, right? We have to take a guided, grace-centered approach to a new way of living out our life. And again, that doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean I'm giving you permission to slide or slack off. What we're giving you permission to do is shift. Just shift. Maybe for me, I had to shift how I fueled myself before I worked out. I had to change my workouts from running and heavy duty, heavy strength training to walking and bar class, right? It didn't mean that I stopped. I just shifted what I was doing, like a downshift. If you've ever if you've ever driven a stick shift car or you've heard your car downshift, right? We just need to downshift, not necessarily stop. So hopefully that feels a little better. I know it did to me when I realized, oh, I don't have to stop. I just need to slow down and take a step back, right? Because that's grace to myself. It's grace to my physiology, which all of this pushing and striving has created physiology that doesn't match my theology, right? So we're going to build it back slowly, wisely, more sustainably, so that the program that I built in to myself is right now, it's 2 or 3 weeks of slowing down and then 4 to 6 weeks of ramping back up with another slowdown week after that. So I can load and deload the stress that's in my system in a way that honors what the way God is made my theology, but also my physiology right now, right? And so what I really want to create is this space in my Living Fresh collective where maybe you don't want to do this by yourself, or maybe you're tired of doing it by yourself. Maybe you think you should be able to do it by yourself. And yet God created us to be in relationship with people. And so it's not another program, right? It's really an environment. It's really a space for formation and transformation. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to build health the way that God designed it, layer by layer, no shame, no guilt, no crazy messages of push, push, push. So I hope that this all resonates with you. Hit subscribe so that you can always find out what's happening next. And the Living Fresh Collective is coming very quickly. And as always, I want you to have renewed health, rooted in truth and restored by grace. I love each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to show you what God is planned for you, or planned for me, that I get to roll out for you. Love you guys so much. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Chris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drchrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Chris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.